You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Welcome into RBLR Lightning. My name is Jake Ricker, and of course I have my fantastic line mates with me as always. It's Matt Gannon, Joe Zamataro. Guys, welcome back into the show. We got a lot more Lightning hockey to talk about this week. Matt, I'll start with you. How you doing today, my friend?
Jake, I'm always just wonderful. Thank you for asking. We've had a pleasant week of Lightning hockey. Couple, one down game or so, but overall, I'd say I'm happy with the results. Joe, how are we doing?
Doing well. We were just talking right before we went live about what amazing weather it has been, and it's nice for having these home games where we can enjoy it. The teams coming in can be distracted by our beautiful weather and get some wins this week.
I actually say there's a cold front coming, I think, next week, so it's gonna get a little chilly down here for us Floridians, but it'll be nice for those northern teams coming down. Gotta love the Florida weather here, though. Usually in the nice 70s when everybody else is freezing down there. But let's jump right into all the Lightning hockey we've got to talk about today, because there's a lot to go through, a couple of big games. But starting off with just some injury news and roster updates. So the biggest thing here, a couple of small things. Hayden Fleury currently day-to-day. He's been out. Of course, the Lightning do have 8 total defensemen right now, so they've been kind of rotating those guys in and out. And then there's still no update on Balcers. Haven't really heard anything on him, which I feel is kind of weird at this point. I guess it's because, since Cirelli's come back, they haven't really needed him at all. And they've been sticking with him instead of rotating an extra guy in there. But nothing new on Balcers there. But Hayden Fleury currently day-to-day. So going off that, though, guys, Joe, I'll start with you. How does this – so Hayden Fleury day-to-day right now – what have you seen in the Lightning rotation there on that bottom couple of defenders there? Do you think, they leave him out for a couple extra days, make sure he gets back to 100% before they bother putting him back into the lineup?
Well, it is giving Foote some extra reps. The lines this week have been jumbled around from game to game, from period to period, from shift to shift. So I don't think explicitly he's being missed by, say, a defensive partner because everybody's being switched around. Give him the extra rest. We've got the manpower to go without him. And as of right now, I think you're really seeing John Cooper trying to find matchups for our lines going down the stretch. And, I'm a big fan of giving guys rest when you have the opportunity, because it's a long season, and the Lightning have had the longest seasons of anybody for the last 3 years.
Matt, I know you miss Fleury the most, right?
I don't hate him. I don't think that's what you're insinuating. One thing about that is Dave Mishkin absolutely loves Hayden Fleury. Again, I think he's better than Myers on the depth chart. I think the coaches and everybody else agree with that. But if you ever listen to the Bolts radio, with Greg Linnell, or Lightning Power Lunch with Greg Linnelli and Dave Mishkin, they both adore Fleury. They love Fleury. So it'd be nice to see him back. But like, you and Joe were saying, the more rest he can get, the better, especially because we are still rotating defensemen, even with Myers in the minors and Fleury hurt. We're still rotating Foote and Bogo, it seems like. So I don't know. It's gonna be kind of a tough situation when, one does come back. I guess we'll see how that evolves.
I loved Fleury, especially early on. I was a big fan of his, and then when everybody kind of came back and then he dealt with an injury, he hasn't played as much, so we haven't got to see too much of what he can still do. But the fact that Fleury stuck around and Myers was the one that got sent down, it's got to tell you a little something there. But he's currently day-to-day with not 100% sure when he's going to be back, but I would expect the Lightning to take it slower than they normally would, just because they do have a plethora of defensemen right now. And as Joe mentioned there, Cooper even said this as well. They're kind of trying to rotate guys in and out and getting a good mix in there as well. So we'll have to wait and see when we do eventually get him back. With that said, though, we can jump right into now with the games from this last week. Unfortunately, we're going to start out with a tough one here, and that was the game against the Detroit Red Wings, where the Red Wings defeated the Lightning here by a final score of 4-2. And guys, this was an interesting game because early on it was basically it was Detroit, but it was also the Vasilevsky show. Detroit had so many chances in the slot. Vasi made some excellent saves to keep the Lightning in it. It was only 1-0 by the end of the second period. Detroit eventually makes it 2-0 early in the third. But after that, the Lightning dominated basically the entire period. They had over 30 shots on goal alone in that period. They ended up tallying 46 shots total at the end of the game, and they would go on to lose this one 4-2, but they did get 2 goals with the extra attacker, but then Detroit kept scoring the empty netters. So kind of very back and forth end of that third period. But the story there was Husso in net for the Detroit Red Wings, stopping the Lightning basically in every which way he could. And he was the one that ultimately got the Red Wings the win.
This is one of those games where I was going absolutely nuts in the first period. What I was looking for in this month is to continue that playoff style game that the Lightning were playing for the previous few games, even through a loss. And what we got was one of the ugliest periods I have ever seen from a team that was the stronger team for talent, the Tampa Bay Lightning. They had 11 giveaways in the first period. It was absolutely ridiculous to give so many pucks away to this Detroit team. And like you said, Jake, if it wasn't for Vasi completely bailing out the Lightning with those turnovers, this game would have been significantly uglier. And they luckily weren't able to capitalize on except for one in that first period.
I'm just gonna pass. I don't feel like talking about this game.
No, understandable.
No, I'm kidding. It was an ugly game for sure. We're gonna have some of these that stick out. Of course, I'm very upset with the result of the game, but when we've been playing this well over an extended period of time, my leash is a little bit longer. You're gonna have those games where not everybody is clicking, not everybody's involved or on the same page, and that's the epitome of what that Red Wings game was. I mean, that first period was dismal. It was one of the worst periods I've seen this year so far. And I believe the total was 11 turnovers, something like that. It was just absolutely horrendous for just the entire team. And Vasilevsky, like you said, Jake, he was just really keeping them in this. He was terrific throughout the entire game. He only let 2 goals in past him. The other 2 goals were empty netters. And it was one of those games where they really didn't feel like turning it on until the last, I'm not going to say the last 10 minutes. We know those games, but they were really good. The Lightning, were really great in the entire third period. They just got Ville Husso'd. I'm not going to say that this was a game where they just entirely got goalied, but in the third period, they definitely got goalied. Ville Husso, he was phenomenal this game, but you can't only try during the third period. That's one thing that I try to bang into this team every time it does happen. And unfortunately for them, it ended up nipping them in the bud. So
I want to respectfully disagree a little bit. I feel like they were trying in the first period, especially, but they were just so sloppy. It was like unforced errors in their efforts. They were carrying the puck down the ice and then sending an irresponsible drop pass, having to work hard to regain possession, only to, again, Kucherov, I think, if I remember the stat, he either had 4 or 6 of these turnovers, and he just passed to the other team. They were making their efforts to get down there and just were very, very sloppy about it. But they cleaned it up in the third, like you said, right? They started to generate more opportunities, and 30 shots in a period. I want to read a quote real quick from Cooper after the game. He was full of quotes this week, and it summarizes pretty
He was definitely
succinctly.
full of quotes this week. You're absolutely right about that.
He says, "We weren't ready to play. It was clear. It was really disappointing. I thought the boys were ready, but was clearly a lot of bad habits that we've had as a team at times during the year that came flooding out." End quote. And that's what we saw until they started to string together, that late third period attempt at a comeback.
Yeah, it was they had a lot of turnovers early in that game, and like there was the one that was right in the slot that somehow Vasilevsky was able to make a save while he was falling backwards. Those were part of the problem there. Luckily, Vasi was so good that Detroit only ended up getting one goal by the end of the second, and then eventually the second early in that third period. And then it was Husso too, who he made a save at one point when he was facing the wrong direction. It was almost like he was on another level. I couldn't believe when you put 46 shots on goal, you feel like you got to get something in the net eventually. And they did with the extra skater on, but unfortunately Detroit kept putting them in the empty netter. And the Lightning ultimately lose this one 4-2. But, in the grand scheme of things, the Lightning have been playing well overall. That was a tough one to take the loss there. But they responded. Moving on to our next game here, the Lightning would take on the Nashville Predators, and it was a reverse retro night as well, with both teams wearing their reverse retro jerseys in this game, and the Lightning come away with the 5-2 victory. Guys, I would say it's a pretty good game for the Lightning overall. They got off to a great start, early 2-0 lead. They did let Nashville come back into this game and tie the game 2-2, but the Lightning took over the third period and eventually made it a 5-2 score, which was your final. And then, of course, we'll have to get to this. We had some shorthanded goals in this, and it was for both teams, both Nashville and the Lightning, picking up shorthanded goals. It was actually the Lightning and the Predators, I believe, were the only teams in the NHL that had not scored any shorthanded goal, and they both come away with one in this one as well. So another crazy, weird game, but overall for the Lightning, they played a majority of a good game, a little bit of a rough second period, maybe you would say, and they get the win by a final score of 5-2.
What was the one thing I asked of this team heading into December, Jake? What was the one thing?
It was that they shouldn't give up a shorthanded goal, and I believe this game
Correct.
took place on December 7th.
Yes, indeed. You are correct. No, I'm not going to give them too much, hell for this one, but it is kind of demoralizing. Like, they are by far and away leading the league in these shorties. I guess the one consolation I do have is that we got one back throughout the game, but when you're got one shorthanded goal for and 7 against, we've got some issues. The rest of the game, it was actually a really good game. I was unfortunate enough to miss the first 2 goals, the Braden Point goal in the first minute 15 or so, and then the Corey Perry goal following shortly after. I was in the arena for them, but I was still walking to my seats. That's just how quick it happened. I was late running to the game, so
Come on, Matt, you can't be late.
I get to my seats, and within 30 seconds of me sitting down, I get to see the shorthanded goal against. And the lady who gave me the ticket, she gave it to me for free. She's like, "Man, if they score another goal, I might have to get you out of these seats. You might be my bad luck charm." So, luckily enough, that wasn't the case. We managed to really turn things around after that second period, which got rather ugly in my opinion. Overall, really, really good game. Good game by the Lightning, but also a really fun game to attend as well.
Yeah, and one thing that we saw a lot of this game was speed out of the Lightning. In particular, the pointer goal that was a minute 16 into the game. It was a breakaway, what turned into a breakaway pass from an aerial pass. Ian Cole dished it out towards the neutral zone. Braden Point just came in with so much speed, the defense couldn't keep up with them and scored one of those amazing breakaway goals that you've seen over the years, and that's what got the crowd going to start. And then Corey Perry scoring on the power play goal with the top unit. Something that we didn't actually bring up about last game was how the lines were being changed up quite significantly, and we saw all sorts of different combinations. We saw combinations continue to change this game. And I think it did bring out quite a bit of good from some of the guys that hadn't put one in the net. Again, moving Corey Perry towards to power play one. He ends up getting the goal. Later in the game, let's see, there was a really nice play that Nick Paul scored on from a really nice pass as he stepped in. He's got in a couple from that right circle where I don't think the goalies really anticipate him having such a shot when he walks in. He kind of looks, he doesn't look like the fastest skater out there. And it must just be an extremely deceiving shot because we've seen him rip some that are just plain beating goalies one-on-one. Just, him shooting on net.
Well, he's not normally a big goal scorer either, right?
He is darn near, if he hadn't already eclipsed his... No, I think he's still a couple points away, but he's definitely hit through the ceiling for goals in a season, I want to say. One thing, I was studying film when we first made the trade for Nick Paul, because I was one of, don't lie, everybody else who was like, I've heard the name, but who is this guy? And every goal I saw was just it was a snipe. And even at this Nashville game, I was like, he got pretty close to the goalie. He was, at the bottom of the circle there. Like, it was just a really good shot. After rewatching, he was actually much, much, much farther out than I thought he was. It was just a great laser beam of a shot from Nick Paul. He has got a tremendous shot. That was one of the first things, if not the first thing that I noticed when I was just looking at his Ottawa tape coming over. Just, he's got a blistering shot, and he really put it on display against UC Saros there.
And speaking of goalies, Elliott played outstanding as well. He got a number of 2-on-1s against them that were a lot of it just from the highly skilled Matt Duchene generating chances, and he came up huge for a number of their opportunities. It's great to see Brian Elliott playing so well. He's continuing to be huge for the team, giving Vasi rest when he needs it.
Especially during that second period, the Lightning kind of backed off a little bit. The Predators really took over throughout the entire second period. Brian Elliott, he kept him in. He kept him in the fight the entire way through. Yeah, he had 2 goals against, but they were, rather nice goals, I'd say. The second one was a pretty difficult one to save. The first goal, it was a shorthanded 2-on-1. Just a clean, great shot that beat him. Regardless of that, he was phenomenal throughout the entire rest of the game, especially throughout the second and late in the third.
He is easily one of the best backups the Lightning have had in a while now. He's been fantastic for the Lightning. Every time they've needed him, he's shown up, no problem, and has played really well. Here's a couple of interesting stats for you guys. So we're talking about Nick Paul there. Nick Paul, this is the most goals he has scored in his career with 12. His last biggest one was 11 goals in the 2021 to 2022 season. He's also tied his points record in his career. He scored 20 points 2 other time in his career. That was back in 2020 and 2021. So one more point, he'll break that record as well. Not there, quite there for the assist, but Nick Paul easily having the best year of his career. And we are only 27 games into this season.
And it's not even just about the numbers with him. He is one of those players, kind of like a Brandon Hagel, who is just everywhere away from the puck. He is never not noticeable, especially in a great way. Nick Paul is just, he's a penalty killer. He's now a power play guy on the second unit, but he gets it done at even strength as well. I'm not going to go ahead and call him like a shutdown forward because he's way too explosive and dynamic to be a shutdown-esque forward, but he's a Swiss Army knife. He's a 200-foot player. So it's not even just about the numbers. Like last year, he wasn't putting up these kinds of crazy goal totals and numbers, but we could still see like, wow, this guy is a gamer. He never gives up. So just for him to be carrying that same style of play while also it translating to the score sheet, it's a beautiful revelation.
The one ugly stat from this game, of course, is the shorthanded goal, which the Lightning lead the league in 7 shorthanded goals on the season. And that may be ugly, guys, but you know what's not ugly? It's the merch that we got over on shop.rblr.com. So be sure to head over there and check out all the stuff that we've got there. We got Lightning merch, we got Rays merch, Bucks merch, you name it, we've got it. And Rowdies as well. Because if you head over there now and use code BOLTS for 10% off your order, you can get some now. Christmas right around the corner. There are some great gifts for the Lightning member in your family as well. So don't forget to head over there to shop.rblrsports.com. Use code BOLTS for 10% off your order. And of course, all those links will be in the description as well. Let's move on to our third game here as well. And if you're thinking about some milestones that we might have missed, don't worry. We're going to get to all that. There's a lot to talk about coming up here in just a few minutes. But next game we need to talk about is the Florida Panthers. And guys, this is the one we said on last week's episode that we kind of circled on the calendar. Like, hey, this is probably the big game of the week right here. And the Lightning came through. They win this one by a final score of 4-1. And, early the Lightning played pretty well. They get themselves on the board first. It's Pat Maroon who gets his first of the season. And then the Panthers do eventually tie it up off a shot that didn't even go off a Florida player's stick. It actually hit a Lightning defender and went in the back of the net. But then the Lightning, they shut it down in the third period. They score 3 more goals, just like they did in the Nashville game, and take home the win in this one, and keeping the Florida Panthers as the little brother in this little rivalry that we have, and the Lightning get the win. Joe, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, the first thing that you mentioned there being Pat Maroon finally getting the goal, that's amazing to see, and it was all facilitated by one Anthony Cirelli. He's been great coming back. The team really, the bottom pairings, or the bottom 6 really look different having him on the ice. He's got the speed, he's got that hustle and drive where he generates opportunities for other players. And this was a perfect example of it, because he pulled the puck off the boards behind the net and found Maroon that was in the about the slot area. He takes a step to the side and snipes it. And Maroon's finally got rid of the goose egg in that stat sheet.
You don't know how difficult it is to watch a Florida Panthers versus Tampa Bay Lightning game while driving on 275. It's difficult because in one end you're looking up at the road, take one little peek down. Okay, it's kind of a scramble inside our own zone. Look back up and look back down. A split second later, they're on the complete other side of the ice. There's a whole scramble going down there. It's just back and forth, back and forth. Despite it being a 4-1 game, it did not lack any kind of firepower or offensive notes to it. It was a really, really entertaining game from all perspectives. The Lightning, they really did clamp down, and thank you, Joe, for giving Tony Cirelli, his credit there. That was essentially his goal. That was as good of a board battle as you will ever see. He just beat his man cleanly and just gets it over to Maroon all alone in the slot. That was beautiful. I didn't get to catch most of this game because, unfortunately, I was driving through Tampa. It was difficult, but from what I could tell, the Lightning, they just really had their way. Yeah, Florida got their chances, and Zach Dalpe somehow, again, manages to score against the Lightning. I mean, I don't know, somebody who is, a career AHLer with minimal call-ups to the NHL, but he can find a way to just score against this team, even if it means coming off of our own defenseman. But the rest of the game, yeah, they really did shut it down from what I could tell. I mean, the shot differential was insane. Florida definitely did have their chances, but, man, all the credit in the world to the big cat. I'm not saying that he had to bail anybody out or anything. I think the defense played really well, but when it came down to it, he was tremendous. He technically didn't let any Panthers players score on him. So it was just a great game overall, in my opinion. Unfortunately, again, I didn't get to watch the entire thing start to finish, but I'm happy with the result and happy with the, I would say, a full 60 minutes from what I could tell.
There's a quote from the broadcast. Brian said when the Panthers scored that goal, he said, Vasilevsky can stop any Panthers player except the Lightning, apparently. He said basically exactly what you were saying, Matt, because that's exactly what happened. It was just a shot that was going wide that went off one of our defenders and went in.
And, I mean, that was that was out of a weird angle as well, right? The shot came from almost the hash marks along the boards, which means that if it hits something, it's gonna take one of those funny angles. So you can't really blame Vasi at all on that one. One stat I was looking at that I wanted to point out is that Matt Tkachuk was held to no points and a -2 on the night. which was something that I loved seeing. Good job to our guys. To me, that was, a birthday game for me. That was a perfect birthday present to get the win and see that guy shut down.
Joe, they did that all for you. That was all you. They had you in their minds. So we have to thank you for being born on a day the Lightning were playing against the Panthers. They stay, little bro.
Yeah, hey, that had to be a pretty nice birthday present. Hey, that's what you said, right? You said give me a birthday win, and the Lightning came through right there for you on that one.
There was one more goal I did want to bring up, and that was Point's second period goal. Kucherov found them in the high slot, and at the time Hagel was right in front of the goalie Bobrovsky, and I think Bob thought that pointer must have been a left-handed shot because he moved to, as you're facing him, the left side of the net, which allowed Pointer basically to skate as a right-handed shot down 2 strides and have a nearly open net on the right side. And it was one of those kind of bizarre plays that if you let an elite goal scorer like Braden Point have an extra second to look at the net, he's going to bury it. And that was all because of Hagel getting right to the top of the crease there to prevent Bob from seeing him.
And not to mention Cal Foote also had 2 assists in it as well. So a guy that, a lot of Lightning fans kind of have on their radar as potential trade bait. He played pretty well in this game. So credit to him having a solid game there with the 2 assists. Hopefully he can continue to do that.
Was that second assist? Was that second assist that he had possibly Sergachev's easiest goal he's ever scored in his career?
That it was the assist on the Sergachev. He had assist on the Pat Maroon goal, the secondary assist, and then the first assist on the Sergachev goal.
Yeah, that was a goal that Belmar is at the front of the net, and Ekblad took him out, which also took out Bobrovsky, and 98 just shot it from the point, and it went clean in, went to goaltender review, went to a review for the goal, and it turned out that Ekblad actually sticked Bob to take him out of the play.
You love to see it. Ekblad was not Ekblad, but the Panthers struggling in that one and even tripping their own goaltender up. It's funny, guys. Chuck talked about how he was going to be the one to change the tide of these 2 teams, the Lightning winning all the time. He's not doing a too good job right now. He has struggled against the Lightning. It's been fun for Bolts fans, but a big win for them nonetheless as they get the 2 points there. And, a good week overall. 2 out of 3. And a nice little stretch there on these last 4 home games as well. The Lightning have been playing pretty well for the most part. And with that said, let's jump into everybody's favorite segment. It's the 3 stars of the week. So actually, Matt, before we get to that, do you have something to add quickly?
Yeah, one thing, I know we're going to kind of talk about milestones and all that, but with Steven Stamkos' third period goal, I think it was with like 3 minutes left to go, he extends his point streak to 13 games, which is also the 4th longest streak this year so far. So 13 games for Stamkos, and what a beautiful goal it was, and what a pass from Killorn to get him free on a breakaway. Just want to give him his credit there and show some love to the captain.
Absolutely. No question about that. Going into the 3 stars here, starting off with the number 3 star. It's actually, we're giving it to 2 players for this one. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning goaltending duo of Andrei Vasilevskiy and Brian Elliott. We had to give it to both of them because both those guys played really well in their games respectively. Elliott against Nashville and then Vasi against Detroit and against Florida. But the goaltenders showing up when we need them to and making some big saves, guys.
Bobrovsky. Yeah, great transition. Brian Elliott. He now has 6. He's 6-1 on the season. That's better than I think any time we've ever had a backup goaltender. I don't think the Lightning have ever had somebody that's performing so well with so few starts. He might get a start every once a week, looking for maybe a back-to-back, maybe once every 2. It's hard to be that consistent. And I mean, it's not even being consistent. He's just been really, really good and further showcasing what a great pickup he was.
He's the best backup we've had since a guy named Andre. I mean, I've said it before, and I hate saying it because it sounds like I'm talking down on our previous backup goalies, but it was always kind of we might just have to score 6 goals and we can win this one. I know Curtis McElhaney is a great guy, and no shade to Louis Domingue or Peter Budaj as well. Man, I'm really reaching down the barrel. But when was the last time you truly felt confident, man, we can win this one and keep them to, 1 or 2 goals or even less than that, a shutout from Brian Elliott? When was the last time you ever conceived that?
Yeah,
And
those Domingue games, it was us putting up goals in order to help out, his efforts in net.
Exactly. Like that 10-game win streak that I think it was 11-game win streak that Louis Domingue went on in 2019. If you look at the numbers, it was still sub 900. It was just the Lightning outscoring all of their problems. They're winning 6-4 or 8-0 or something, or 8-5, something like that. Again, no shade to Louis because he's one of the coolest, most awesome, beautiful humans on the earth. But man, it's essentially just me saying awesome to Brian Elliott. I know I also have to give my credit to Vasilevsky here as well. Man, he has been terrific as well. His goals against average is plummeting in a good way. His save percentage is coming up. He has just been fantastic as well. I go on a lot more Vasilevsky tangents than I do with Brian Elliott, so that's kind of why I'm sticking to that this week, I suppose. But hats off to both of them. They truly deserve the third star of the week.
And if it wasn't for that sloppy play by the Lightning against Detroit, Vasi only let in 2 goals, even though it was a 4-2 loss. The 2 were empty netters, so he went .917 save percentage and really kept them in that game while they're having significant struggles.
Are some excellent numbers. He continues, both these goalies continue to impress each and every night. It is quite amazing, especially for Elliott, even at his age. He's an older guy. A lot of people thought his career was starting to go down, and he's been playing extremely well down here in Tampa. Going to our number 2 star of the week, though, we've got a guy who's only played a couple of games this season, and that's Cirelli. He's been playing fantastic. He's got 2 points in his last 3 games. We talked about him in the Florida game, getting a big assist to help Pat Maroon score his first goal of the season. But guys, Anthony Cirelli has been playing really well early, and we talked about how him coming back could be a huge help to the bottom 6, and I think that has. So Matt, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Cirelli and earning the second star of the week?
There's not been a game where he's not been noticeable. He's been everywhere. He's been a hound. He's been the injection of life we've needed into the bottom 6. And it's weird that he's even in the bottom 6. It's just a testament to how good the top 6 guys are playing right now. But since he's come back, there's just been this aura, a change in the team around him. And he's just kind of not grabbed everybody and dragged them with him, but just really had everybody playing up to his level. And I get it. You're excited. You're playing your first game a quarter into the season, but he hasn't had that bump from games 1 and 2 kind of fizzle away. There's a reason why he's earning, as of next year, north of $6 million a year, because he's that kind of player. And just for him to be rewarded and him just making these stud plays, like that board play, I can't get enough of it. He's one of the best board battlers in the league. He has not taken one shift off, not a game off, nothing like that so far. So for him to be, a point per game so far, I know the sample size is really small, but it's still, it still speaks volumes on his play style and how he does play. He's still one of the best shutdown defensive forwards in the league. Man, again, he's just played phenomenal since coming back from shoulder surgery, which is one thing that I want to hammer into people as well. He's coming back from shoulder surgery. Doesn't look like it one bit.
And you retracted, but I actually like what you said. He is grabbing the players and dragging them with him. If you look, who's the one that got Nemesnikov going? Who's the one that got Patty Maroon his first goal? He really is making a huge difference with productivity with those guys. He's he's dragging them right up to the front of the net and getting them their goals. I do like that analogy, actually. And yeah, a point per game, that's great to see. But a lot of the stuff that he does on the ice are what we consider the intangibles. There's not really stats for it. On board battles, this is a guy that, if it's a 50-50 puck, he's coming up with it 70% of the time. And there's not really a stat that really shows how effective he is at stirring things up on the forecheck and really driving play when the cycle is going. it's been great to see him. We said it in the first game that he was back. Doesn't look like he missed any time at all, and that's why he gets that second star.
To be honest with you guys, he probably would have gotten the first star if it wasn't for this player who's been absolutely on fire. And to give our first star of the week, that's Braden Point. He has been absolutely outstanding for the last couple of weeks, quite honestly, but 4 goals in his last 3 games. Braden Point is playing on another level right now. I mean, he's been crazy impressive. He is dancing through defenders to get to the front of the net and scoring goals when the Lightning need it most. He's been excellent. He gets the first star of the week here from the RBLR crew. Joe, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on Point and his gameplay so far?
There's really not much that I can add to this one. His play has been so dominant and obvious that it really lends itself to being first star without saying much more. The real question is, how do you shut a guy like this down when you've got Kucherov feeding him beautiful passes? He's skating fast, and we see how deadly accurate he is if he's getting that puck in the slot. He's playing peak Braden Point right now, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
You don't shut him down. That's the answer.
You can't, man. He's so explosive. I'd say he's probably the most explosive player on the team. Like Kucherov, he's smooth and silky, and Stamkos has got a wicked shot, but no player can really turn it on and turn on a dime and dust you in seconds like Braden Point. He's one of the fastest players in the league. We heard me, harping about this a couple of weeks ago. A healthy Braden Point is a dangerous Braden Point, and we're seeing that right now. He's got a 3-game goal streak, I believe, 4 goals in these 3 games. He's not stopped, and he is, for being, such a goal scorer, I hesitate to call him a playmaker, but he's definitely a play driver. He's the first guy over the blue line on the power play most of the time. He's the first guy to make that drop back pass. He's the motor. He's the engine. He's the benchmark for what speed could be on this team. So every stride he takes, every step and every shot has just been nothing short of magnificent this last week. He is 100% deserving of that first star, in my opinion, and I know he can carry this momentum with him. He looks like playoff Braden Point right now, which is the scariest player on the team, in my opinion.
And we would love to hear from you guys who are listening as well. Let us know on Twitter at RBLR Sports what you guys think. Do you think we missed anybody on these 3 stars? Would you have changed up the order at all? Any and all thoughts are always appreciated. Let us know what you guys think, and don't be afraid to chime in on the conversation as well. So let's move on from the 3 stars now and head to some overall points. And guys, we kind of touched on these a couple throughout the game recaps, but I think we should go over some of the big milestones that our players and coaches hit as well. First one we should start off with is John Cooper with that win in Nashville. He became the youngest NHL head coach to reach 450 wins. John Cooper has won at every level. He's won a championship at every single level. And now he is out here and breaking records and up to 450 wins already. Super impressive from John Cooper. He's always up there in that players pool as a coach players want to play for if it wasn't for their own head coach. He's just a stand-up guy. He's been unbelievable for the Lightning, and just a big round of applause to our head coach, John Cooper.
Is it not so? Yeah, so he's got 7 championships as a hockey coach, and just the story of John Cooper is so funny because it's like he didn't even want to be a hockey coach. He wanted to be an agent, and even that was looking kind of bleak, and it just kind of serendipitously fell into his lap coaching a minor hockey league and then making his way up in the ranks. Was he the youngest and or fastest coach to reach 450 wins?
I think,
regardless, both of them are crazy accomplishments.
I'm not
I have
sure
to double check, but I believe it was
that one up.
I believe it was the fastest, as I try to quickly pull it up here. But while I look at that, Joe, your thoughts on our head coach?
If you haven't listened to his after game press conference clips or the full pressers, you really, as a fan, you should. He's a guy that's very articulate and gives you a lot more information than some of the other coaches. And everything that he says is, I mean, I don't know. I love the guy. He's the best coach the Lightning have ever had. And I thoroughly enjoy listening to what he puts out in the pressers. He's not someone that BSs you with empty words, and he actually seems to connect with what the reporters are asking him. So take a moment if you get a chance and listen to some of his clips.
And
So
sometimes he does give the reporters a little bit of word salad with his lawyer speak and just be as ambiguous as possible, but it's not like he's just saying words. I think he's just honestly trying to throw a wrench in the operation sometimes if things are going poorly, whatever. But most of the time, yes, he's upfront, he's cordial, well spoken. He's the coolest coach in the league, not to mention the best coach. That's all I got.
There's countless stories of him coming up to when he had days with the cup, going into a random bar or restaurant, taking the cup and just setting it on somebody else's table and telling them, "This is your cup. You get to spend some time with it." It's so cool. Who does that? It's great to hear.
Like he did to my dad, who barely knows who John Cooper is, but not to me. So, whatever.
Matt's a little salty about that. Clarification on the record, by the way, he is the fastest NHL coach to reach 450 games. He just beat out the Canucks coach, if I remember correctly, Bruce Boudreau, to that record. So he was the fastest coach to do it. You guys were talking about some of his quotes. I love this quote from him that he had this week where he said, it used to be we have a piece a couple of shifts together. We're piecing periods together. Now we're almost piecing games together, seeing improvement. I think the guys are getting more comfortable. You have to take advantage when we are at home. It's not over yet. That was a quote from John Cooper just earlier today, actually, as of this recording, on how the Lightning have been playing. And I think he's absolutely right. Like, again, you guys he nailed it on the head right there. This guy knows what he's talking about. And he knows how to motivate his guys. Even though they struggled early on in the season, some people panicked a little bit. They've improved each and every week, and they're ramping up as they get closer and closer to playoffs. Even though we're still a ways away from that, it's just been really impressive to see. No question about it. Let's go on now to, we kind of talked about this as well, but let's quickly mention the shorthanded goals again. We've brought up the power play, I think, every single week so far in these episodes, but I think it has to be said again. 7 shorthanded goals for the Lightning. It's the most in the NHL. I think they're even approaching an NHL record up there. It's a problem for the Lightning. So I want to ask both of you guys this. Joe, I'll start with you. If you could make one change on the power play to try to prevent these shorthanded goals, what would it be for you? Basically, if you get to be in John Cooper's shoes. I know those are some tough shoes to fill, but if you could change one thing in the Lightning power play to try to prevent these shorthanded goals, what is it for you?
Take the belt out, and whoever creates that awful turnover, you get the belt. It's that simple. And it's similar. It's usually the similar offenders that aren't being careful with the puck. In this case, it was, I know, holier than thou, Steven Stamkos should never be talked down upon, but it was a sloppy pass back that it was just grabbed and went for a 2-on-1 the other way. The way that this team plays the power plays, you only have one defender back. A lot of penalty kills have a box style. So you have 2 of their players high, 2 of them low. What this kind of makes is a perfect opportunity to go 2-on-1 against our defender just based on placement. So you have to have great puck management to make sure that you don't allow them an opportunity when you have the man advantage. And this was yet another time that we saw Stammer be kind of lackadaisical when it's his responsibility with the puck and it turned over in a goal. We've seen Sergachev do it a number of times now as well. And I don't think that personnel change is going to make a difference. I think it's them just being sharper.
If I'm John Cooper, I'm sitting in my office, I got my shades on, cigar lit, and I call Mr. Stephen Christopher Stamkos into my office. And I put the cigar out on my tongue and I look him dead in the eyes and I tell him, you only get to pass forward and shoot on the power play. That's what I'm telling him. No more back passes, no more backhand passes. We're done with that. Pass forward, pass to Hagel, whoever's working the boards up top or down low, or shoot. That's it. That's all you get. Of course, I'm kidding, but he's just got to. That's it. I know I'm picking on the most recent one here, but just be a little bit more aware. I get it's a mistake. It happens. It happens to the best of them. Steven Stamkos is the best of them. But seven. I get it. Each one has its own story and niche to it, but man, just tie some bungee cords that only let him, go back so far. He can't make that back pass.
I think I'm putting 3 defenders out on the ice for the power play now. Just throw all the defenders out there to make sure they're back there to prevent those mistakes. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. Something is clearly not right though. And if there's one guy I trust to fix that problem, it's John Cooper. This guy knows what he's doing. He's been able to get the Lightning so much success in recent years, and hopefully they are able to figure it out sooner rather than later, as the Lightning's upcoming schedule, it may seem easy at first glance, but they've got some tougher games. So the first game, I'm going to go through all 3 games, and then I'll get your guys' thoughts on some of these upcoming games. But the first one will be against the Seattle Kraken. And while you might be thinking, oh, that's an easy game, that's an expansion team, don't look now, but the Seattle Kraken, they're in second place in the Pacific Division. They are 7-3 in their last 10 games. Yanni Gourde and the Kraken have been playing very, very well. And, that might be a game to circle on your calendar. Could be a tough one for the Lightning, but of course the Lightning have been playing very well themselves, so it should be a good game there as well. Coming up after that, you have games against the Columbus Blue Jackets and then the Montreal Canadiens. So another division game coming up here for the Lightning, of course, against the Montreal Canadiens. So biggest one for me, guys, is that game against Seattle. But Matt, which game are you circling on your calendar this week?
It's always a great game against Columbus ever since the incident. It seems like they being the Lightning, they just still take it a little personally. I mean, it was Steven Stamkos hitting 100 points last year against Columbus for the first time in his season. They're always just really fun games to watch. And I think the Lightning are going to come out on top on that one, and against Montreal a couple days after that. But yeah, Jake, you're completely right in saying don't look past Seattle. They are a great team right now. As much as I don't have any hate or nothing towards them, but it kind of feels weird to admit that they're a good, formidable team right now. They've got some of the best numbers in the league. It's not even like they're winning, just off a whim. They've got an easy schedule, easy opponents, or anything like that. No, they've got some really good numbers to back up their play. They're one of the highest in goals for, one of the lowest in goals against. They've got great power play and penalty kill numbers. Things are starting to click for them. So this is a team that we can't shut out 4-0 like we did last year at home. It's not going to happen. So we really have to watch out for a lot of players on their team. That Jared McCann, he's vicious. He's not vicious, but he's explosive. He's spicy. And that number 37, he's vicious. You got to watch out for him. So it'll be a fun couple games coming up, but the Seattle one is definitely going to be the one to watch.
Yeah, it's always nice having old Bolt players that meant a lot to the organization coming back home. And Yanni Gourde got a goal and assist last night. Well, this would be Sunday night against the Panthers. So hopefully he got his Florida road trip scoring out of the way and doesn't come back to Amalie to light the lamp at all. It's one of those West Coast teams. I know they say that those are important ones to steal away, but it's, in my opinion, it's really the game against Montreal that is going to be, a good one to watch. With Montreal right now, let's see, they, are just out. They're outside of the playoffs, but it's still an in division game, and they can turn it up every now and again. When it comes to playing Columbus, they're awful. So hopefully the Lightning at home playing Columbus will just have a nice solid game, play shutdown, and keep treating, like Cooper says, string together an entire game of just making the right play and make it a boring one with coming away with 2 points.
A lot of fun games to be looking for here coming up. Joe, you're absolutely right. The Montreal one is the division one, so when you look at standings wise, that's probably the one you want to focus on the most. But personally, I'm excited for that Seattle one. I will say, by the way, Seattle's got by far the best looking merch in uniforms in the entire NHL. I just love their colors so much. It looks so good. And it's always nice to have Yanni Gourde back at Amalie Arena as well. But that's going to pretty much do it for us, guys, in this episode. If you're still hanging out with us, we really do appreciate you as well. Thank you guys so much. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Give us a follow on social media. Give us that like, that 5-star rating, whatever it may be on whatever platform you're listening to. It really helps us out, and it really means a lot to us as well. But make sure you tune in next week so you don't miss out on these future episodes. You can follow at RBLR Sports on Twitter so you don't miss out on our other podcasts as well. But we'll talk to you guys next week. Go Bolts!
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.